Matt,
Justin,
man, how are you doing?
doing great. Hope you are.
Yes, sir. I'm doing well, man. Thanks so much for getting on the call with me today.
You bet. Happy to do it.
How's everything going over there in Davidson?
Well, things are quiet as they are across the world, but
Yeah.
DCP is managing, and we miss being on stage. We miss entertaining folks.
Oh, that's great, man. So for those who don't know, give us a little bit of background. Help us know and understand who is DCP Davidson Community Players.
So Davidson Community Players has been around a long time. Formed in 1965, a handful of professors and their spouses were reading plays around a kitchen table and decided they want to put on some shows. And so because the college then and still doesn't have any summer school, the place was pretty dead in the summer. And so they began producing summer shows. And so for about 40 plus years or so, DCP was producing big summer shows on the campus of Davidson College. Occasionally, we would throw in a spring a show over and do a show on spring break. And then about 12 years ago, we got a new space. We got a theater, small 110-seat theater in Davidson. It's a former church that we renovated, and a place where we can produce small, intimate, usually dramatic shows. And so we do those during the academic year, and then during the summer, we still go over to the college and produce shows in their big 550-seat theater on campus.
So you guys still have a very tight relationship there with Davidson College, yes?
Yeah, we do. We sort of feel like we've been grandfathered onto their calendar, so that each year at the end of the summer we pick the dates for the summer to come, and then the college allows other groups that want to rent their facilities to work around the dates that we choose. So we feel pretty lucky that the college has maintained that relationship with us for over 50 years.
That's great. That's great. So over 50 years now, you guys have been in Davidson and building that community, and I know I'm still new to this area, but let me help, not without me pushing you too far on this and revealing too much. How long have you been involved in this area and with Davidson Community Players?
So I'm a Davidson College graduate. So I was here in the 80s and did acting on campus. Didn't work with Davidson Community Players, but I knew of them as a student. And then I left the region and came back in 1996. I was practicing law at the time, and really had this hankering to get back on stage. It had been 10 years or more since I've been on stage. So I auditioned for a show in 1997. My first show with Davidson Community Players, got cast and discovered this wonderful gem in the region. Met these terrific volunteers and these really talented actors, and then became sort of a regular on the DCP stage. I was then invited to serve on the board, and I served on the board for a number of years. And then my career path took a little turn or two, and I came back in 2011 to be the executive director. So it's been a long journey with DCP, almost 25 years.
Wow.
That I've been working with DCP in one form or another, and I absolutely love the organization and its supporters.
Wow, that's amazing. That's amazing. So so, you said in college here in the 80s, worked with the organization, on the board of the organization, and then finally, executive director for about 9 years now?
Yep,
Right?
that's right.
So about 9 years as executive director. You've definitely, I'm sure through all those iterations, seen a lot in this area in the Lake Norman region. They've seen a lot kind of grow and change. What are some of the things that, obviously much has changed, but what are some of your, I guess, most interesting things you've seen change about? Like, what would you bullet point?
Well, I would I would say when I was a senior in college, a handful of my buddies, uh, we were talking one night about buying some land on Lake Norman, which back then you could have gotten for chump for pizza money, and beer money. And so we were serious about it. We actually looked at some land over in the Cornelius area, looked for land over in Mooresville. And it was really kind of a lark and it was pretty cheap. But I had one particular friend who said one day this place is all going to be grown and this real estate is going to be really valuable. At that time, it was mostly, trailers and mobile homes and things are kind of circled the lake. There wasn't much growth then. And of course, now,
Right.
we all would have done pretty well had we bought that land.
Right.
So that's kind of an obvious thing. The growth has just been remarkable. The economy is so much more diverse than it was 20 or 30 years ago, and I think we all benefit from that. The fact that the residents of the region don't necessarily have to go to Charlotte to work, that there's plenty of employment, plenty of jobs in this region. I think that's wonderful as well. But another really important sort of bullet point about the differences are the cultural opportunities in this region. 40 years ago, not a lot to do. So the students from Davidson regularly hopped in their cars and drove down to Charlotte to go to bars and to go to see movies.
Right.
And to go to restaurants because there was nothing up here. You didn't have those choices up here. And the fact that that you don't have to do that anymore benefits not just the residents here, but it benefits an organization like us because we can sell to our patrons that, look, you don't have to go to Charlotte for entertainment. There's all kinds of wonderful things to do up here, including going to see a show with DCP.
Yeah. Well, and I think you make such a good point, and you did a great job of segueing into my next piece, which is going to be culture, right? One of my big focuses with this piece and kind of in general that I've been talking about the last couple of years with our project with the Cain Center is really kind of challenging what people think of when they think of culture. I think people have heard this word culture, and it's become this kind of barrier to them, without realizing it. It's well, culture is up here, and I'm not up here. I'm down here. But I think a lot of us that work in the cultural fields, think of it a lot differently. So with what you were just saying a minute ago, what would you say your definition, or what do you think when I say the word culture?
Well, I think of culture is that which feeds the soul, and it's what makes us different from the apes and the lions and tigers and bears. I mean, humans uniquely as a species on this planet can produce art and can produce poetry and can produce live theater and music and books, and all of those sort of things that enrich your life and enrich your community have grown in incredible numbers in this area. And I also think of, when I think of culture, I think of a thriving place like the Davidson Farmers Market. Again, all species eat and take on food, but in Davidson, the farmers market is an experiential market. It's an experience to go and shop and see your friends and neighbors and think about how your food was created and is it organic and is it local and all that sort of stuff. So, I think all of those elements come in to define who we are as humans, and they enrich our lives, make our lives better, and give us a reason to get up in the morning and go to work so we can enjoy these other aspects of our life.
Right. So all right. So taking all those things you mentioned, and I think Davidson Farmers Market is a great example of that. What do you think? And being that you've, like you said, came to school here in the 80s, left, saw other culture, came back, you've watched the growth, in what becoming kind of the Lake Norman region, which, when we say that, we identify that as, North Mecklenburg, South Iredell, East Lincoln, West Cabarrus areas. In that, what would you say the culture of the Lake Norman region is? What are some things that make it the Lake Norman region, that makes it that culture?
Well, I would say, again, I think it's changed. I think it's changed significantly, maybe the last decade, maybe a little bit more. Maybe 20 years ago, this was, I thought, sort of an aging area, that people were coming, while the area was growing in the 90s, early 2000s, the area was growing, but it was becoming a destination for a lot of retirees, people transplanting from the mid-Atlantic, from the Northeast, the Midwest. A lot of those folks were coming here. Maybe they had a connection to the region, maybe they didn't. And the sort of cultural fabric that supports an aging community is very different, as you know, than that which supports a younger community. And what I've sensed in the past decade is that the region has gotten younger and wealthier, and the needs to support that aspect of the community appear to be different and appear to be growing. So live music, for instance, which was virtually non-existent 10 or 15 years ago, is growing in the region. You got Cornelius, and then you got Boatyard East, me, which has big bands on the weekends and draws big crowds. So I think a lot of the cultural opportunities are catering to a wider demographic. And again, as I talked about earlier, I think that enriches the lives of all of us and makes this a more interesting place to live.
Yeah. Well, and look, and you guys at DCP have been, such a big piece of that culture even before the development. And now I think, you all obviously have done a wonderful job continuing to serve and be a big piece of the culture, I think, of Lake Norman now.
Well, thank you. And we're mindful of this changing demographic. We want to produce art and plays that speak to those people who have supported us for decades. But we also recognize that we want to be relevant to the newcomers to the region and to younger audience members. So we try to balance our play selection with a mixture of those. Sometimes we don't get it right. Sometimes we try to do things that we think are going to attract new audience members or attract even our old audience members, and we miss. But our aim is try to produce as much content, as much performance and productions as we can to appeal to as wide a range of patrons as we possibly can. We want to be relevant to as many people as are open to experiencing live theater.
Absolutely. So to that, help tell the story. We're going to do two different ways. First, tell me the story pre-COVID of how Davidson Community Players was doing, like where you were headed, the direction you were headed, the types of programs that you were looking into and serving the community with pre-COVID.
So pre-COVID, we had moved away from this kind of busy periods of the year that I outlined when DCP first started, so that pre-COVID, we were busy 12 months out of the year. So we were offering education classes that mirrored the school year in the semesters. And then we were offering about 30 summer camps throughout the summer. So a really robust youth education and camp program. We were producing 5 youth performances each year. And those ranged from sort of fairy tale plays, the Disney, Lion King, and that kind of stuff, to teen and college age theater. We did In the Heights last year with them. We've done Heathers, things like that. So trying to cater to that group as well. And then we've complicated that with sort of our bread and butter, which is our main stage series, where we do our season includes 3 shows at Armour Street, our small theater, 2 shows at the college, big shows, and then we have a 6th show, which we call a bonus show. So with all of those main stage performances, with the youth education efforts, and with the youth performance efforts, we're busy 12 months out of the year. That all came to a grinding halt a month or so ago. We had to move our spring classes online, and we were thrilled that so many of the parents and the students were willing to do that with us. But our plans for the rest of the summer and beyond are in a state of flux. We are not sure what the continuing effect of the governor's restrictions on gathering will be on us. We did learn last week that our big tent pole, our biggest show of the year, the musical that we do at the college has canceled that production in June. So we're keeping our fingers crossed that we'll have an opportunity to do something over at the college this summer, but we don't know yet. So COVID-19 has sort of ground to a halt all of these programs that we've been doing. So we have sort of refocused our efforts towards what can we do if we can't get people on stage and we can't get audience members in the theater. So we've been trying to do a lot of things online. I mentioned the classes that we've been offering remotely. We've been sort of cultivating our teams to submit bucket list audio or videotapes of them singing. We did gave out some prizes for people to with DCP. And so, our next question is, where do we go from here? Do we try to produce content online? We've got some good ideas of how we might do that. Or do we yield that area to other theater companies and maybe just sort of pick and choose the best of what others are doing and produce that for ourselves? We're not quite sure, but we're keeping a close eye on what's going on.
Right. Absolutely. Absolutely. So Ken, do you guys think that you still might keep the remote classes moving forward? I mean, is that something that people could keep an eye out for to register?
Yeah, absolutely. So we've got summer camps that are posted. One registers those through the town of Davidson. They sort of sponsor those, and that's where the information is. So we have all of our nearly 30 summer camps are on there. We are waiting for some indication. We will probably hear that very soon as to whether we'll be able to go forward with those, or at least we may decide, or we may learn that the June classes have to be remote, but we'll delay a decision on July. Right. So like a lot of businesses and theater companies, we're modeling out different scenarios. Yeah. One scenario is us all getting together and having our classes together. Another scenario is to alter those classes in a way that capitalizes more on this medium of doing things remotely. It's a very different experience if you have 10, 12 kids running around and playing theater games and creating characters, working on their craft. If they're all together, it's a very different thing if they're all sitting down in front of a computer. They have to take turns when they speak because that's what Zoom requires. And the parents are disappointed because they don't get to run off as much energy as they do with camps. So we're not sure what we're going to do. We are modeling out various different scenarios, and hopefully that information will be on the town's website and our website very soon.
Awesome. Well, Matt, I'm sure that you guys you've mentioned you're doing the best you can. You're trying to adjust and pivot as a company, as an organization, as best you can. I'm sure you have challenges right now, like a lot of companies do. So, from a company that's been a part of this Lake Norman culture for so long, 50 plus years, you, someone who's been involved in this community as long as you have, what are some things that people in this area can do to help you all in this time?
Well, immediately, we have received some support from the Small Business Administration, the SBA loans called PPP loans, and that allows me to keep my staff of 9 people employed for another 6 weeks or so. But beyond that, the money from the government runs out. It may be that we can't produce shows, so revenue from ticket sales runs out, and we will likely have to furlough some employees. So one way people can help us immediately is to donate to our new Encore Fund. This is a fund that we have just created after we got word that our big summer musical was canceled. We've created the Encore Fund. It's a place to donate and help us get through this very, very difficult time. We certainly would welcome gifts of small and large, and know that your money will help us get back on our feet when this is all behind us. The second way people can help us is that when we do get past this, and we will, and we start producing shows again, is come out and support us. Yeah. Buy a ticket. I guarantee you that you will be entertained. I guarantee you we will do everything in our power to produce quality productions. So come out, whether you've seen a show with us or not. Give us a try. Support your local artists, your local theater company, and everybody benefits. So the immediate help with the Encore Fund and future help in coming out when the curtain finally opens again.
Yeah. Well, and I will say, you know, I know we've teetered around this a little bit and talk still to come, but you know, with what we're working on with the Cain Center for the Arts, a lot of our mission and goal is, as well as just presenting cultural opportunities to the community, is to serve as a place to highlight the cultural organizations that exist here already, such as DCP. So, you know, when all this is said and done, if we don't keep organizations like DCP, and we don't keep organizations like Dance Davidson and some of these wonderful organizations that we have going, then, you know, when we open, we don't get to present, you know, and help present you all and help keep, you know, all this going in the community. So, you know, our hope is that everyone continues to support everyone as much as they can to just help them get through these tough times, so that when on the end of this, we all can strengthen each other more.
Well, and thank you, Justin. Thanks to you and the Cain Center for doing this and for your interest in us and all the cultural organizations. You know, if any good can come out of this, maybe it's that people will realize how much they miss some of their neighbors involved in cultural opportunities in the region, whether it's live music or whether it's live theater or whether it's, you know, Main Street Books. I used to go to Main Street Books a lot and browse and look for books. I can't get into the bookstore. I miss that. So maybe we'll all be more grateful and more appreciative of the resources that here in our own backyard and support them wholeheartedly when we're able.
That's an excellent point. That's an excellent point. And I'm going to let it end on that excellent note. So Executive Director Matt Merrell of Davidson Community Players, thank you so much for your time. We'll make sure in the show notes and afterwards we'll have your website, and we'll get you to send us a link to that fund as well. We encourage everyone to just support all of our local organizations as much as you can in these times.
Thanks, Justin. Appreciate it.
Have a great day, man.
Wash those hands.
Yes, sir. That's right.